President Carter had deep ties to Louisiana. He visited our state again and again throughout his career. Tonight, we look back at the respect he showed its people and its needs. When Jimmy Carter first ran for president in 1976, the former Georgia governor visited New Orleans and spoke to a crowd in Jackson Square. He would go on to carry Louisiana and win the state's 10 electoral votes. In 1979, near the end of his term in the White House, President Carter appointed former New Orleans Mayor Moon Landrieu as his Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Landrieu had just finished his second term as mayor when Carter picked him for the job. He went on to serve about a year and a half in the Carter cabinet. In 1980, as the president launched his re-election campaign, he returned to New Orleans for a French Quarter rally, where he was introduced by Mayor Dutch Morial.
We pledge to you tonight that we will carry Louisiana for you on November 4th.
Carter said the election offered voters a clear philosophical choice between himself and his opponent, former California Governor Ronald Reagan.
There is no way that Republican voters can carry New Orleans or Louisiana on November the 4th.
President Carter also spoke at a fundraising dinner at the Fairmont Hotel, where Governor Edwin Edwards, who chaired the 1980 campaign, introduced Carter, and it was vintage Edwards.
I hate to say it, but I know some farmers who are thinking about voting for Ronald Reagan. I think they think a cowboy has something to do with being a farmer, but a celluloid cowboy has nothing to do with cattle, just bull.
At the time, the president was battling low approval ratings here and across the country and acknowledged that in his speech.
We've got problems in this country, yes. I've made mistakes in the White House, yes. Every president has. But the principles that have guided me have been the same as the ones that guided you.
In the end, Ronald Reagan would carry Louisiana and become the nation's 40th president. Soon after Jimmy Carter left office, he and his wife, Rosalind, began their long association with the nonprofit group Habitat for Humanity. In the decades since, they joined with volunteers to build, renovate, and repair more than 4,000 homes, including several in South Louisiana following Hurricane Katrina.
New Orleans has always had a special spirit about it, and that's what has made it so attractive, and it's going to be equally attractive when this tremendous project is completed.
The former president and first lady helped build a house in the 9th Ward in 2008. That visit marked the 25th anniversary of Habitat for Humanity's presence in New Orleans. The group's impact was particularly felt after the storm.
I understand that here in this particularly devastated area that Habitat is still the foremost builder of houses. That's very gratifying for us in Habitat to say, but it's kind of an embarrassment that a volunteer organization is still the #1 builder of homes for the people who are so greatly in need.
While discussing the region's recovery, President Carter also called for changes to FEMA, an agency that was created during his administration.
I think that the original performance of FEMA was a disgrace to our country.
Carter said FEMA should be a fully funded independent agency, one that reports directly to the president and is run by someone with extensive experience in disaster management.
All three of those principles were completely violated after I left office, and I hope that the next president will reconstitute FEMA the way it ought to be and the way it was originally conceived.
And President Biden announced Jimmy Carter's state funeral in Washington will be held on January 9th. That will also be declared a national day of mourning in the U.S.